Oh, I'm live. Hello. Doing this live from a different device. Consider it a bit of a test. I'm just literally testing it out. Just literally testing it out. So it's working. I can hear that it is working. And that's fine. That's good. So I'm doing this today from the tablet. And the format looks completely different. Very strange. Very strange indeed. But I'll continue. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, well, it doesn't. Don't know why it's saying edit. So just bear with me, because I am going to mess about just to try and figure out what is so different about doing it on this tablet, because to me it looks a little bit complicated. If I hit edit, okay, details, customization, how? Actually, no, I won't. I will stop messing about. Anyway, what was I going to talk about today? I might not make a lot of sense because it is almost 1:45, and because I've been really silly and had a coffee, which I shouldn't, I can't sleep, and it is quite warm as well. So I'm really struggling. The last thing I should be drinking is coffee, but I'm wide awake. But I'm coherent today, and I did want to just see how the live works on this different device. I'm not keen on doing lives from these tablets because with a phone you can just hold it in your hand and it's fine. This tablet, I've sort of parked it on my bedside table. So anyway, what did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about Kangana, Madame Kangana Renault, who's basically created another shitstorm, as she does. Sorry, I shouldn't say shitstorm, should I? I should say firestorm. So yeah, she's created a firestorm. I mean, it's a massive political and to some degree a cultural firestorm. One that blends like there's fairly high stakes really in public office. It affects the entertainment industry. In fact, it's created warfare within that industry because yeah, I don't know if she dragged in her alleged ex or he jumped in. I've no idea. But more importantly, it's about those generational clashes and those clashes that she's caused really ugly. And then, of course, when it comes to a mix of Madame Renaud and social media, she is a loose cannon. She is an absolute loose cannon. And I suppose in a way what she does, it's unbridled, isn't it? You know, her social media commentary. Because I don't think that she spoke. I think she put up some Instagram post which maybe she shouldn't have. Not maybe she shouldn't have. See, I'm second guessing myself. She absolutely should not have put up that post. She is a prominent member of parliament. And this is my opinion, and I'll put the disclaimer in after I close the live, that this is my opinion and it's my understanding, and y you know, not everyone will agree, and in parts I may get things wrong, um, because again, the majority of the you can't call it news, but it's coming from various social media platforms, and anything the mainstream media, yeah, they're just in it for the ride because it gives them the TRPs that they need. So anyway, so what did she do? What on earth did she do? So she launched an attack on the younger generation, labeling Gen Z with sweeping, horrible terms like generation gutter. She's accused them of substance abuse. In layman's terms, we call it taking drugs, to failing their basic traditional expectations, which, what are the traditional expectations now? We've evolved. Dynamics change. So when dynamics change, a generation changes, then obviously the expectations change, or at least they should. But the fascinating part about this story is just the the initial insult. It's spiraled out of control, and there's been a lot of change in narratives, and with her vocal statement that she gave, she shifted the goalpost, as people always do when people are attention seeking, rabble rousing. I was going to say the word liar, liars. You know, she's done all sorts. She's launched a personal attack on her ex-partner, and the party that she represents, they're silent. But everything that she's done, and everything that the party she belongs to hasn't done, it's backfired. So I'll try and break it down as easily as I can. So how did it start? She makes a really horrid, inflammatory public statement. Then she faces horrible backlash, which was fierce. As per usual, politicians, it doesn't matter where they are globally, they do look for, what would you call it, an escape route. But she's not the type to take that exit door, is she? Because she doesn't want her rhetoric to cool down. And it didn't cool down, and then it escalated. Of course it escalated, and that's exactly what she wanted. Most people, instead of letting, I was gonna call it a disagreement, it's not a disagreement, it was downright disrespect. But even when there is this sort of situation, normal people just, they let it settle, and the narrative, oh, yeah, it just kept changing, and it's wild because all this stuff is coming into my feed, and I'm listening, and it's like, wow, wow, that was offensive. And then the backlash. The backlash is offensive. Those mainstream media channels, they are loving it. But, first it was just slightly broad. It's I don't know, when you sweepingly, when you just condemn, it looks like the whole entire demographic, it's just been condemned. That's what's happened. So, her critics, and who are her critics? There's a massive majority here, and critics and followers, not blind followers, but just normal followers of even her party. I think there's been pushback there as well, because when there's deadly silence like that, consider that pushback. No one's come out in her support. And that silence, of course, then that speaks volumes, you know. Yeah, so all the other critics, they push back. And again, what happened? The goalpost moved. So when she was challenged about the awful derogatory stuff that she said, that, they're ugly, they're in the gutter, they don't live up to expectations, they won't make good homemakers. She questioned their upbringing, she questioned financial stability and how how the children, and I'll call them children, Gen Z, they're not children as in children, I'm not ridiculing them, young adults, that how they're so still so dependent on their parents. I mean, wow. Yeah. But she said all that, but when she got that pushback, she she did a weird pivot. It was weird, because she's now using the foul language as the reason for her outburst. Um, yeah, she is trying to shift the focus to protests and more specific incidents, but yet in her original statement, she hadn't said anything. You know, that whatever this is, whatever this is, is it an incident? Is it a feud? Is it? I can't sort of. It's difficult to label this type of situation, but it's the type of thing that's dragged in unrelated personal history, and that's why I'm saying it's backfired. You know, she's bringing in ex-partners and third parties into the crossfire, and this is all deflection. And why does it happen? Because the just as I'm sat on this platform, it's a social platform, it's a public platform. Um, these sort of platforms, they do reward high progressive, I don't know, what do we call it? Call and response content? Because there aren't any boundaries then, are there? Mentioning private figures or past relationships, it shifts I don't know. It just shifts the information and the debate straight into what we would call sensationalism, I suppose. And it's become a bit of a tabloid type of attraction. To them, it's TRPs. To them, it's just another story. Um, yeah, I'd call this a tabloid drama. And no one's got control of this news cycle, because people are coming out left, right, and centre. To my mind, and I'm thinking, wow, she's a sitting MP, right? And she's a loose cannon. And when this happens here in the UK, when we've got loose cannons, the leadership, they do take those hard decisions, not because of public pressure as such, because they know how to damage control, I suppose. Um, but she's prolific in in terms of repeating offences. She is a repeat offender, actually. because she will make those pathetic remarks. And so why do the party leaders, the party that she represents, the party that is basically leading the country, why are they quiet? Weird, isn't it? They are quiet. I don't know. Sometimes it's quite calculated, isn't it? I know you're probably thinking, well, that's a cynical balancing act, but yeah, it is. You know, they distance themselves without disowning. Whereas here, yeah, you'd get suspended, there'd be an internal inquiry, and then, yeah, they'd probably get a smack on the wrist, and they get financially penalised as well. You know, but there, what have we got from the party that she represents? They're just quiet, silence. And the couple of people they have interviewed, um, they passed go on the whole thing. You know, I think to I can't remember who it was, but someone from her party did say, "Well, it's her personal opinion," and I was like, "Wow, wow." You know, this should be, you know, the BJP attacks the cockroach, the CJP. I can't say that cockroach Janta Party with a straight face. I can't. I'm sorry. Um, but I just think the leadership, her leadership, or whomever she reports into, they've just dodged the fallout because they don't want the mess, and they don't want to take that step of expelling her. And I think expelling is quite strong, really. I'll just stick to saying, yeah, suspending her. And after all, you know, she is a sitting and democratically elected MP. And people like her, you know, yes, now she's a politician, but she transitioned from the entertainment industry, didn't she? And to them, that in itself is the biggest advantage because she already has a pre-existing fan base. Yeah. And what does that give you? That just gives you hyped up digital megaphones. That's what it gives you. So, you know, they're strategic and they tolerate the chaos. But she is completely unscripted, isn't she? She's combative, she's aggressive, and it's really weird. You can't, and maybe, and I might be wrong, and I know people will disagree. Maybe they can't muzzle her. You know, maybe they can't muzzle people who thrive on confrontation, and she does. She thrives on conflict. Public warnings, there, she just thinks, yeah, this will blow over. It's just standard. But for her seniors and leaders managing the fallout, I think it just turns into an exercise in endless damage control, which they're not doing. They're not doing. But she's like a rebel without a cause, but pretends that she does have a cause. I think she's quoted crap like feminism and all that. It's just like, yeah, okay, lady, if you say so. But I think for me, the bit that really sticks in my throat is the sheer hypocrisy of it all. So who's a target? Gen Z, right? Young adults, we'll call them. She said they were too westernized, they're rebellious, and corrupt for their lifestyle choices, fashion, independence. And I don't look at her as a politician. All I see is an ex-entertainer who's passing judgment on them. Yeah, okay, she's a public figure, but her own youth and early career were defined by total nonconformity. She left home. She was really young when she left home, um, and then she went into confrontation. She had some horrific turf wars within that fraternity that she aspired to succeed in, and she did succeed. Yeah, well done, kudos to her. She did exceed, but she was aggressively rude to her peers, seniors, veterans, and there was this whole facade of, building a brand on fierce independence. What a load of bollocks. And that whole she thinks it's an insult when she was saying to Gen Z, You're too westernized." I mean, what was she thinking? Did she look at her own past wardrobe choices? Her styling? And I'm gonna say this, you know, throwing that "Oh, you're too Western" card, but she was dating a Western man. It's there in the public domain. If I say it in layman's terms, she was dating a Gora. I don't know if he was European or English, and I'm not interested either, because that's her personal choice. But she's been hypocritical about personal choices that Gen Z are now making. She's lived life on her own terms. She's broken. I mean, to all intent and purposes, if you listen to her now, she comes out with, "Oh, I've come from a conservative family background." Well, she didn't really meet their expectations. Her choices defined her path, which, in her own words, I'm not even paraphrasing, it liberated her. Wow. So if you've done all that in the past, how can you criticize an upcoming generation that are probably now 20, or maybe, okay, that's a bit harsh, 20, at least 15 years younger than you? And these people, they're exercising the same freedom that they're allowed. If they want to dress differently, yeah, and dressing differently isn't just for the elite, and it isn't just for people in the entertainment industry. The world's evolved. Ki- I say kids, and again, when I say kids, I mean Gen Z. They express themselves. They're out there. They're out there carving their own identities. So if she did that, she left home, she carved out her own identity. Um, why is it that she's now basically saying that if Gen Z are doing the same thing, then it's suddenly moral decay? No, the decay's in her head. They have the right to that autonomy, the autonomy that she exercised for herself. It just reeks of double standards and hypocrisy. It really does. But it doesn't, the hypocrisy, it doesn't stop there, does it? It's not about um generational. I've got to word this carefully, right? Because then people start taking it wrong. But her hypocrisy, it basically bled into targeted feuds. We've watched her single out artists. Um, one in particular who's so close to my heart. He is like the cutest of all cute Punjabi aa gaye oye, Diljit Dosanjh. She singled him out. He rose organically. you know, and it wouldn't be too strong a word to say he rose from obscurity right into global fame. She directed awful vitriol towards an elderly lady, an elderly Sikh lady who was part of that farmers' protest. Um, she's got massive institutional political backing. Where's the sense in targeting senior citizens or independent artists? Independent, and there's no one more independent than Diljit. He's not part of any cohort. He's not part of any group. He does not partake in any form of politics, whether they're in the professional field or whether they are in the political field. It you know, what she does, she doesn't debate, she tries to punch people down. And you know what? He stood up to her, and he actually put her in a place because he's a very decent, dignified man, but he doesn't take any shit. Sorry, shouldn't really say that, but he doesn't. And you know what she did with that senior lady? A lot of people were hurt by that, and there was some real world resistance around that as well. I remember that. I don't know if she was like a security lady or she could have been part of. In fact, I don't know if she was part of the army or part of the police force. So I'm not gonna. But what happened? She was posted in. I think it was Chandigarh Airport. It might have been Amritsar. I can't remember. I'm really sorry. But there she saw her coming along, and she was holding a lot of pain and anger in her. I'm talking about the security lady now, and I think her name, I can't remember her name, and that's really bad. It might have been Sukhwinder, I can't remember, and that's really bad of me considering I'm discussing the topic. Um, but she was really pissed off that this woman who thinks she's the bee's knees, she's walking through the airport like some queen, which she's not. Yeah, she did a film, a super hit film, Queen, which was really good. But we can't take that away from her. But she had been like vile to an elderly lady, and I think she'd say "So rupaiye il tib bekadiyan," something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I'll put my disclaimer in at the end. Um, so as a result, she got a smack in the face. And there's no place for physical violence, especially if you're part of law enforcement at such places or any place actually. And yes, I condemn it. And yes, she was suspended. And yes, they're probably still trying to sort out the legalities. But my point is, this woman is so offensive that sometimes she gets raw public reaction. Because unchecked, insulting, that rhetoric, it just leaves deep, lingering wounds. And that's for any self-respecting Sikh. If our mothers are insulted in the way that she insulted her mother, because apparently the security lady's mother was part of that farmers' protest. And again, that just goes to show how personal and painful those public insults feel, just to normal, ordinary people who were sat there just fighting for what was rightfully theirs. Oh, but anyway, this whole attack on Gen Z, what did it achieve? I don't know. Don't think it achieved anything. It's really weird. It's like, we've been talking about Savin and poetic justice and karma, and this is the month for it because this is the month for, you know, cleansing all that old crap out and getting some poetic justice because nature and the universe does its thing. Um, what she did has backfired. So she didn't crush the spirit of the younger generation. It just triggered something that was quite fascinating really to watch. And I don't you can it's a bit of a Streisand effect. You can Google that, but I will try and explain it in layman's term. What she's done, she's basically unified the I was going to say the tribe, that's wrong, the tribe. um because there's millions and millions and millions of young people, and she's painted them all with this horrible derogatory brush, you know. So her attack erased those internal differences, and that's what's united the tribe of young people, different backgrounds, different political leanings, you know. From what I can see, there has been student networks that have been building, and there's some real crazy memes going on there. You've got digital creators who are quite verbose, politically quite verbose, and very and very against certain parties, but uh, they've they have a common enemy, or maybe enemy is too strong a word. Common adversary, let's call it that. Yeah. So what would have been just a slight pushback from a small cohort, because I think she was her attack was for the kids that were taking part in that protest, right? But it's it's been fascinating to watch. It's just like unified collective. They've all come together. It doesn't matter that they lean differently, but they've come together because that general insult, it hurt them all. It hurt their parents. And I've heard at least, I think 20 to 30, these social media type of interviews. Um, yeah, and parents aren't very pleased either. And they were parents from all different backgrounds. It wasn't that they just turned to these these English medium parents, or the ones with a good command on a different language. They went for everyone, and everyone spoke openly and freely, and this generation, I'm telling you, it's wired to track hypocrisy, and they're not backwards in coming forwards. And every time the rhetoric shifted, what did they do? They fought back because they dragged that personal drama into the mix. There's youth led, and I'll call them the youth led social media platforms. Yeah, they're very quick to use digital forensics to dismantle her logic, and they have the type of, I suppose, social media know-how or social media literacy that it basically poo-pooed all her criticism, and they gave it back. All those other people that she's attacked in the past, the old people, her peers, um, she started all this nepotism crap as well, didn't she? And yeah, you know, well done to her for taking the so-called elite of Bollywood, who, again, to my mind, they're just a bunch of losers and they're bullies and they're trolls. But yeah, she took them head on, so that's fine. Good for her. But she's still a hypocrite. You know, she's what has she done? What has she done since she's been instated into that position of power? What has she done for the people? You know, did the government use her because she is an entertainer and she is able to pull in the votes? I can't talk too much about it because I don't know what she has done. She may have done some good. And you know, when I look around at all these so-called entertainers, oh my God. So, you know, Amitabh Bachchan, he failed as a politician. It really wasn't his cup of tea, but again, he was used because, you know, they pull in the votes, don't they? And then else did we have? Vinod Khanna, I don't know if it was before the O Show or after the O Show. Uh, Dharminder. Oh, God love Dharminder. He was he was adored, but you know, political, could you put him in a political arena? No. Did he get a ticket? Yes. His second missus, did she get a ticket? Yes. She flies around in helicopters and all the rest of it with her nose turned up at the world because she's very entitled, isn't she? I don't know what she's done. And then you've got the son. You've got the son, and I think he was old Sonny Baji. I don't know if he had a ticket for Gurdaspur, I think, I don't know. But again, you know, they're too busy dancing around the trees. What the hell are they going to do for the public? This is really stupid when these entertainers are given tickets. You know, God love them. They've got a following, great. But misusing the following, the fan base, if you want to call it, just to keep a certain political party in place, that's stupid. But anyway, but that's what they've done. But at the end of the day, I suppose, I think this ruling party, of whom she is a member, they do need to step in. But and someone needs to serve some sort of lesson, and I don't mean that as punishment, you know, lesson as in knowledge sharing in how not to handle public office. You could say, are there any master classes out there? Yeah, there's probably a few. There's probably a few decent, you know, MPs out there who really do care about their constituency and their constituents. Um, but I'd imagine they're far and few and far between. It's just her whole base. It's built on division, isn't it? And yeah, most of them get that what do you call it? You know, historical amnesia, which is quite convenient because it's like again, I think in layman's terms, what we normal call historical amnesia is selective outrage. But everything she's done, the punching down, the insulting, everything she's done, the narrative that she set and then she tried to reset. Well, it's caught up with her. You know, that's my bit on it. I think everything sort of caught up with her because she is a loose cannon. It goes back to her being a loose cannon. Um, who's going to hold her to account? You know, they don't because there's too much posturing. Why? Because they need the votes. they will do that same old thing that, "Oh, this'll blow over. Goina, in a couple of weeks, this will all blow over." But this is a big generational clash, and she has inadvertently, one could say by the grace of God, she's actually united the youth. And what started as, I think it was satirical, wasn't it? That CJP. I can't say that with the straight I can't say that with the straight face, I swear. Um I should, but I can't. But anyway, they're just people will take them seriously now because they've basically stood up to a bully. But anyway, that's my hour nearly up. So I'm going to see how this fares in terms of, she says, because I can't even see the exit button on my thing. Oh, God. Modern youth. And you know what's really bad? The reason I've continued, because it says 42 minutes, I might as well just take it to 45. Yeah, I think the bit that I've missed is she targeted young women. That was, and she calls herself a feminist. Pathetic. So instead of empowering those young women and maybe presenting her so-called argument and using herself as an example, she could have done it differently. But oh no, 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 no. She just went for them. But and again, it's because it's uncontrolled. She is a loose cannon. She's coming back to hypocrisy, and I might be sounding repetitive, and that's because I am suddenly coming over tired, but um, but yeah, someone who's made some reckless, reckless life choices is now labeling people as drug users and criticizing them for having a dependency on their parents. Their parents, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ, ਉਹ ਪਾਲਣ, ਉਹ ਰੱਖਣ, what's it got to do with you? Just pathetic. And I think she did say something like, all the media and journalists are ganging up on. You've ganged up on a youth of millions, silly girl. And that's what you are. You are a silly girl. A silly girl that never ever learns a lesson from a previous mistake. And she will never be held accountable. She's a pretty face. She pulls in people for votes. Here, a public figure like that, if they behaved like that, they would be subjected to like public scrutiny. If you're in that position of political power, then your words carry weight, but they didn't really, did they? Because your words were insulting, inflammatory, and you didn't even discriminate between the masses and the classes. You just went for it all, didn't you? But there we are. He said something like, they're not capable of becoming homemakers. Well, one could argue that if you think you've achieved so much, by yourself independently, which, okay, great. But how come you're not a homemaker now? Who gets to decide what makes someone fit to settle down or build a life, or who decides how people qualify to become homemakers? Has she suddenly changed the definition of feminism? Probably. And she's again like she shifted the goalpost. She's going, oh, there was abusive language. Shut up. True feminism, you don't tear people down. Feminism is about equality. But we won't go there because, if we talk about men and women being equal, some people get really, really offended. And yeah, I'll rise to that challenge of challenging these people with the mindset that women are inferior to men and they have less rights. But in public, they say, oh no, they've got more rights than anyone. But privately, they're stripped of all their rights. And then they're beaten to a pulp. But apparently that's okay. But I digress because I'm still pissed off about yesterday. Anyway, in a position of power, there has to be a responsibility where you bridge those gaps, especially with the youth, because they come in with built-in rebellion. But what has she done? Well, she actually did. She did unite them with her behavior. So that's what I mean by whatever she did, it backfired. You can't look down on the youth of today. She should be encouraging them with their personal growth. The young man that I think she targeted a certain young man, I can't remember, but I heard him and he was extremely well spoken, articulate, and it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but I don't know if he said it or someone else said it, but they said, oh, maybe she's targeting me because I look like a younger version of her ex. And I was actually drinking some water at the time and I just spat it out because that was funny. And this is when behavior like this, it catches up with you. But anyway, I've harped on now for 45 minutes, which is good. I've tested this stupid gadget out. The whole live setup looks completely different. I don't think I'll be using this one again. I think it's just easier to do it from my normal phone and just, on the mobile app. This whole desktop app, it just isn't comfortable. And the other thing is, with the state of my eyes, it's not good. It hurts my eyes. So I don't really know who was listening, but whoever was listening, if I've bored you, I apologise. But I couldn't sit here and not speak when I'm testing out a new gadget. Yeah. I'm actually not digitally challenged. In fact, the complete opposite. Um, but yeah, I think with all the current nerve work I've had done, it's probably wasn't the best time to be messing about with new gadgets and seeing how the studio looks in this and how the lives are different. In fact, I should have done it during the day, but yeah. But I had things to do. Yeah. And coming up to 2:30, I thought I was sleeping, my eyes are wide awake again. So my advice is never drink anything with caffeine before going to bed. Right. So now I'm going to end this, and I've got to somehow find on this screen, and it's a big screen, I've got to find where the hell to end it. I don't know if I had my comments on or off actually, because I have got that habit, haven't I, of switching my comments off. When I come just to talk bollocks, that's what I tend to do. I just switch my comments off. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So, because I've got, what's the time on that? 50 minutes. Let's do 10 minutes because I might as well say this, that, yeah, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but where has it gone? I'm just I'm trying to find something that I saw that was bloody hilarious. Something about, no, I can't find it. I can't find it because then to find it, I need to go to that particular video, and there's no way I'm going to play that. I'm not bringing that to my channel. But yeah, there was talk of nobility, harassment, defamation, and the liberty to launch legal cases, which is all well and good. And if you're in a position to give that sort of legal advice, um, that's great. But then what I think you failed to understand was that's a two-way street. And there's been lots of harassment and defamation and demeaning behaviour um, towards the people that they're now hiding behind. So giving a simple apology doesn't make it all better. They've also been quite disparaging and demeaning and making defamatory, I was going to say statements, but the behaviour is quite disturbing. Um, so it's a two-way thing. So unless you've actually got a proper bona fide legal background, I really suggest you think twice before putting that sort of stuff out, like, well, out there in the public, because I don't know what made you do it. I don't know if they've had your ear, but what I do know is that it's all a load of bollocks because I'm sat with the evidence and it is damning. And I will say again, if you've got that legal background and you think you can help them, then go for it. Because I'll be very interested to see the outcome. Because it won't be challenged. I mean, that would be silly, right? Why would we challenge it? I say we. I shouldn't say we, because now everyone's in it for themselves. Whoever attacks whomever, whoever has these psychotic episodes, whoever carries on with their pathological lies, I think what you guys fail to do or recognize or understand, I don't know if you're naive, all of you, you all think you're over clever and you're not. But you sort of underestimate the people that they've abused, they've lied about, they've created these scenarios because they believe it in their head. And yet they've left such a damning digital trail. But yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. Carry on with that advice. Um, because I'd really like to see you help them see it to conclusion. So I'm just going to sit back and observe now. Good morning. Good morning. How are you, gorgeous? How are you? How's my मैं ना तो नहीं लेना बेटा पर how's मैं चुन्नू कह दिन्नी आ. How's my little चुन्नू? How are you? I hope I haven't disturbed you. मैं ਤਾਂ ਨਾ कभी नवां gadget ਜਿਹਾ मैं ਲਿਆ नहीं ਸੀ. My brother gave it to me today because the screen's bigger, है ना? I am fine. How are you? मैं बिल्कुल ठीक. But the format's really different. मैं ਉਹ ਟੈਸਟ ਕਰਨ ਆਈ ਸੀ. ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਕੰਗਣਾ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਸਤਾਨੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਬੋਲਨੀ ਆ and end ਤੇ ਕੁਛ ਹੋਰ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਬੋਲ ਦਿੱਤਾ. So, Kavi, there's people out here on YouTube who are underestimating me, which is good because now I'm just going to let them do their thing. They think they're clever. Chalo. Kavi, have a lovely, lovely day. It's Monday, है ना? You're up for work. ਇੱਥੇ 2:30 ਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨੀਂਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਡੱਫ ਲਈ ਸੀ. So, I don't know what I'm going to do. ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਇਦਾਂ ਲੱਗਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਹਾਂ ਨੀਂਦ ਆਉਣ ਲੱਗੀ ਆ, but no. Anyway, I can't dito. Very nice. Or my English thoda thoda. Your English is good. Your English is thoda thoda, but your heart is big big. And your beauty is jada jada. ਚਲੋ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਮੈਂ ਹੁਣ ਚੱਲੀ ਆ. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਪਿਆ ਹੁਣ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮ ਐਂਡ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ. ਮੈਂ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗੀ ਆ ਐਂਡ. Love you, love you, love you, love you. And ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਦੂੰਗੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਦੂਜੇ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਦੂਜਾ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਦੂੰਗੀ. ਡੇਟ ਮੈਂ ਨੋਟ ਕਰ ਲਈ ਆ ਹੁਣ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਬਲਿਕਲੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ. And don't worry, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਠੀਕ ਹੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ. Yeah? Bye, gorgeous. Bye. Right. I found the button. I'm going to hit the button. Thank you, Gavi, for coming. There's 3 people watching. Hello. I don't care if you're a dost or a dushman. Fill your boots. Because I've said what I wanted to say. And don't think for a minute that if I don't say anything for 1, 2, 3 days, or maybe half a day, or not, that oh look, ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਡਰ ਗਈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਾਤਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹਜੇ ਪਿਓ ਜੰਮਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਆ. ਮੈਂ ਹਜੇ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਮੈਂ observe ਹੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਗੰਦ ਪਾ ਲੂੰਗੇ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਗੰਦ ਪਾ ਲੂੰਗੇ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਾਓ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਪਿੱਛੋਂ ਝੂਠ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਲੋ. You won't get rewarded for it. ਚਲੋ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਘੰਟਾ. ਚੰਗਾ bye. Bye. 6 people. Anyone who wants to say hi, please say hi. Otherwise, good night. Whoever you are, wherever you are. Sleep well. Rab rakha. I did well today. I don't even think I swore once. Yeah.